Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Glory Glory Man United podcast. And this will be the first in a series of special podcasts in which me and Jerry look back on United's history. And it's kind of just to fill in the gaps in United's calendar. There's been a few this season, and there's going to be more after this. And obviously, during the World Cup and pre-season, there won't be many meaningful games. So we'll probably be doing more of these then as well. So tonight we're going to start off by looking at the 06-07 season, which was the beginning of a new period of dominance under Fergie. Um, Between 03 and 06, United didn't win very much, and certainly didn't win a league title. It was a bit of a barren period, but things began to pick up again in this season of 2006-07, and it started off. We'll talk about the transfers first of all. And it started off by selling Ruud van Nistelrooy, which I don't think there's any United fan in the world who were happy to see that happening. But he was another player who fell out with Fergie, and Fergie preferred Louis Saha to him. And at the back end of the 05-06 season, Saha famously playing in the League Cup final against Wigan, and Van Nistelrooy being left on the bench. Um, and that summer, our only major marquee signing was Michael Carrick, and some fans weren't particularly enthused by that one. But it turned out to be a great signing in the end. And Thomas Kuszek joined on loan. Um, I'm not sure what else was there. Yeah. Jerry, was there any other signings that we made in that window?
No, that was all the signings we made. Carrick being the marquee signing. When Roy Keane left 6 months previous, I think the main thing for United was to find a bit of a replacement. Not that you'd ever replace the great Roy Keane, but I suppose we were short in midfield, and there was times in the back end of the 05-06 season where we had maybe Ryan Giggs or John O'Shea playing in midfield. So we definitely had a big hole to try and plug. And Carrick was fantastic for West Ham, and he went on to Tottenham, and he enjoyed a couple of good years there, where he really established himself as probably one of the standout central midfielders in the Premier League. But like you said, not every United fan was happy to be going after him. They wanted someone a bigger name, perhaps, and we were linked with a lot of midfielders before the World Cup that summer. If you remember, Michael Ballack went to Chelsea that particular summer, and I think a lot of United fans were calling for him to be signed from Bayern Munich at the time, and he would have certainly been a marquee name. There was also Marcos Senna. Do you remember the holding midfielder of Villarreal?
Spain.
Villarreal were on the back of a great run to the semi-finals where they lost out to Arsenal in that 05-06 season. And Senna and Riquelme were two of the names being mentioned to come to Old Trafford, but didn't really materialise. And I even remember I was 16 years old that summer, and I used to get the old text alert on my phone, and younger viewers won't understand what we're talking about here, but I was subscribed to a Man United text alert where any transfer news at the time would be text directly to my phone. I think I had an old Nokia 3210 or something like that. And remember, one of the rumours was Owen Hargreaves from Bayern Munich. United were interested in bringing him in, but nothing happened. And I suppose it was the following year when he eventually did rock up to Old Trafford. But yeah, there was a whole host of names touted at coming in to replace Roy Keane, but we went for Michael Carrick in the end, and what a signing. Totally unexpected, but he was fantastic. And like you said, Thomas Kuszak initially came in on loan from West Brom, and he was a backup to Van der Sar. I can't remember, was it Tim Howard? I think Tim Howard had gone on loan to Everton, so we needed a replacement to come in and back up Van der Sar at the time. So it was a pretty low key window, but we have to remember that we had the likes of Rooney and Ronaldo coming through as well. So it was a really young and hungry squad. What are your memories of that particular summer?
Yeah, I think Keane said after his departure that Rooney and Ronaldo would win United the Champions League, and that prediction came true. Um, Now, Carrick took the number 16 jersey from Roy Keane, but he was a completely different type of midfielder. Perhaps United fans were expecting a destroyer, but that's not what we got. Carrick is more of a ball playing, a deep line progressor of the ball. He's not very combative, um, but he could be when he wanted to be. And Fergie just opted for a completely different style of player. Um, and he turned out to be the biggest signing of that window. So yeah, Van Nistelrooy was a massive departure. Perhaps we all expected to sign a striker, but we didn't do that either. Saha had already been promoted as the number one, number nine, and Rooney, played as the 10 behind him. Um, and obviously Ronaldo um, took on more responsibility then in his fourth season. Now up until that point, Ronaldo was very inconsistent. Um, he was just a developing player, but that August 2006 is where Ronaldo became the Ronaldo that we all know and love. Um,
Absolutely, yeah.
he was often accused of, in his first 3 seasons, he was accused of having no end product. Well, that changed in August 2006. But one of my biggest memories from that summer is that it was the World Cup, of course, and Rooney and Ronaldo clashed at the World Cup when Portugal played
Yeah,
England, and Ronaldo played a role in Rooney getting sent off. He appealed to the ref to ask for the red card, and Rooney wasn't too happy about that. And the media thought, "How will these two ever be friends again?" But Rooney didn't care. Once he got back to Carrington, he was ready to move on, and that was the end of it, really. So it was just really a storm in the teacup. And straight away, the first game against Fulham, United won 5-1, absolutely blew them away, and Rooney and Ronaldo were electric in that game. And I think Saha got on the score sheet as well.
yeah,
I think Fulham got a goal with a wicked deflection that looped over Van der Sar, but they weren't in the game really. United dominated from start to finish. Rooney and Ronaldo providing goals and assists, and Saha scoring as well. So it was an absolutely unbelievable performance to start of the season, wasn't it, Jerry?
yeah. It really was. You talk about laying down a marker, and I think United really laid down the gauntlet to Chelsea there because if you remember the season before, um, we didn't run Chelsea close, but we got to within 6 points of them in the title running. Um, so we ran them a little bit closer than the season before, than 04 or 05, where they ran away with it. Um, so we put it up to them, and if you remember, we lost 3-0 at Stamford Bridge, the game where Rooney broke his metatarsal. It's only about 6 months before, or 6 weeks before the World Cup started. So um, we spoke all summer about having a quick start, and I think United really needed a fast start just to prove that they can keep up, and you could not get a better start than what we got against Fulham. We went out there and absolutely ripped them to shreds. Saha, Rooney, Ronaldo was a real fluid front three, and I think the reason Fergie kind of probably ended up getting rid of Van Nistelrooy, I know there was the fallout between the two after the League Cup final, and stuff like that. That's been well documented. But I think Fergie wanted to kind of go with a more fluid, fast forward line, whereas he probably felt Rude was more of a focal point, and perhaps maybe was starting to slow things down. He was probably getting on a little bit as well at the time. Um, so Saha just kind of suited the system and brought others into play, and that was, of course, the breakthrough for Rooney and Ronaldo. Like you said before, Ronaldo was an inconsistent winger up until that point, and he just really kicked on. And I think he ended up scoring 23, was it 28 goals or something in total that season. So, and on the back of that wink gate at the World Cup, it was just the best possible reaction.
Yeah, I think Rooney and Ronaldo finished the season on joint top scorers at 23 each. Um,
Yeah,
and Solskjaer got 11 goals. Now, this would turn out to be Solskjaer's final season at United, and
yeah,
it'd be a typical Solskjaer role where he would maybe start the odd game but come off the bench a lot. and he chipped in with 11 goals. And he did so in the second game away at Charlton. Remember Solskjaer scoring in that game, and McCarrick made his debut in that game. He came on as a substitute that night.
Hmm.
Um, and then I think we played Watford away. I remember being at a family wedding that day, and I had to listen to some of the game on the car stereo on Talk Sport, which was a new channel back then. And I think Silvestre, I think, scored in that game, and Giggs.
Yeah,
Um,
indeed. Yeah,
so we won 2-1 in the end. I think Ashley Young was playing for Watford in that game, uh,
yeah,
which was the first time maybe we came across him, and he would go on to then to play for United years later. But yeah, it was a very fruitful August. 2006, United really hit the ground running. Now I am titanium is making me feel really old, because he's saying in the comments here that that 2006-7 season is the first season that he probably started watching United, and he was only 10 at the time, and the first World Cup he was is 2006, and the first World Cup I remember is 1998, so that makes me feel really old. What's your first World Cup, Jerry? Probably.
My first World Cup was 2002, Korea and Japan. It's a great World Cup for Ireland. You know, you what an introduction with the whole Saipan incident and everything that came with it. You know, it's, talk about a baptism of fire.
Yeah, I'm still not over the disappointment of Roy Keane not playing in a World Cup when he was in his prime. Um,
Yeah,
you know, he was immense for United in the season leading up to that. I remember him scoring away against Bayer Leverkusen in this Champions League semi-final,
yeah,
and this was probably going to be his last opportunity of playing in a World Cup. I know he played in '94 when he was quite young, but 2002 was probably going to be his last opportunity, and it didn't happen in the end after the fallout there with McCarthy, which was hugely disappointing. But
yeah,
yeah, back to United. I think the first time we dropped points in that season was in September against Reading, who I think were just newly promoted, and they would have had the likes of Leroy Lita and Kevin Doyle in their side.
yes, yeah,
I think they took the lead in that game, and Ronaldo scored a cracker to equalise, a real
yeah,
low shot into the bottom right hand corner, and the keeper had no chance. I think it was an American keeper for Reading back then. He had a goatee. I can't remember his name.
yeah.
Um,
Marcus Hanneman, I think Marcus Hanneman. I
yeah,
think his name
that's
was.
right. Um,
Mm.
Dave Kitson, that was another the ginger haired fella. He was another Reading player at the time. Um,
Yeah, and it's Steve Sidwell as well in midfield. Um,
yes,
I think Kevin Doyle actually scored a penalty in that game. Ex Cork City, Kevin Doyle.
yeah, because I remember that they were 1-0 up for a long period, and United were just absolutely all over them. They were just throwing
Yeah,
the kitchen sink at them, and eventually we scored. Um, but they defended resolutely and kept us down to just one goal. I also remember that September us losing at home to Arsenal,
yeah,
1-0. I think Adebayor scored, but on Solskjaer, I remember having a big opportunity to level it up, but Jens Lehmann made a fantastic save to keep him out.
yeah. That was a great
So
save, yeah. And that was an unexpected defeat because I think we had won our first four games up until that point and maybe the draw at Reading as well. Whereas Arsenal were decent, but they weren't the force that they were 2 years before when they went through the season with the invincible team. Uh, so they had dropped off a lot. So we were expected to beat them or at least get a draw. So it was fairly unexpected that we lost. I think it was a pretty late goal as well when Adebayor scored. So that was the sore one. I still remember feeling really disappointed that we had lost to them. But I think we went on a run then and we won 7 games in a row after the international break. Came back and into October we beat Bolton 4-0 at the Reebok. I remember Rooney got a hat trick. That was
yeah,
a real standout game.
yeah, I remember Rooney after he scored the hat trick, kissing the match ball.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, it was another one of those dominant displays at the Reebok from United. There would be another one of those in 2011. I think won 5-0 on that occasion. But yeah, it was a fruitful run after that defeat to Arsenal. And I think United beat Tottenham 1-0 as well in September. I think Ryan Giggs might have scored a header, which was a
Yeah,
rebound from maybe a Ronaldo free kick or something. Uh,
yeah, and that's when Tottenham weren't. They were okay. They were decent, but they were more of a mid-table side. I can't remember who was managing them at the time. Maybe someone in the comments might let us know. Was it Martin Yole, possibly? Um,
could have been, yeah. You could be right. And probably was at that time. It was probably Ramos after that, and then Harry Redknapp, I think. So it
yeah,
probably would have been Martin Yule. Yeah, and how can we forget? In October 2006, we beat Liverpool 2-0 at Old Trafford, and
yeah,
Rio Ferdinand scored a cracking finish with his left foot. I think
yeah,
Scholes got the opener that day, and
yeah,
wasn't it his 500th appearance for United that day, Scholes?
yeah.
If
I think it
I remember.
was. Yeah, yeah. So it was really fitting that he scored on his 500 appearance. It was a bit of a tap in. He got on the end of low ball into the box, and I think Pepe Reina almost saved it, but Scholesy tapped it in. So it was a dominant performance from what I remember. Liverpool weren't a great side at the time. They were quite a defensive team under Rafa Benitez. So it was a matter of breaking them down. And once Rio got that cracking second goal, there was no coming back. It's fantastic, brilliant one.
It was the second time in that calendar year in which Rio Ferdinand scored against Liverpool at Old Trafford, of course, scoring the
Right?
winner
Yeah,
back in January of that year,
yeah,
um, which led to Guy Neville getting into trouble with his celebration.
brilliant. Yeah, great memories.
But I remember when Rio took that ball down on his right and then he lashed it in with his left. And Alan Smith, the commentator, said Rio Ferdinand always fancies himself as a bit of a striker, and he showed it there.
He
And
certainly did. He certainly did. He showed the strikers how to finish that day. That's for sure. I remember I was actually went out to the pub to watch it. I was only 16 at the time, but I was allowed out to the pub that day to watch the game. So it's great memories.
yeah, later on in that season, which we will talk about, I remember having memories of being in the pub for the first time watching United games. Sometimes when you're 17, you try to get into pubs, and sometimes you get in, sometimes you don't. But
Yeah.
we'll talk about that a little bit later on. So going into November, then I think we played Portsmouth, Blackburn, Sheffield United. I remember we won away at Sheffield United. Keith Gillespie, I think, gave Sheffield United the lead in that game, but we came back and won 2-1. Um, I think Rooney scored, didn't he?
Yeah, Rooney got a brace. He
Yeah,
was brilliant, and we were wearing that lovely blue away kit as well. I think it was the third kit that season. Um,
yeah,
Great goal.
it was the same kit as the season before, only the sponsor had changed from
Yes,
Vodafone to AIG.
AIG. Yeah, it was the first season of AIG actually, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's very unusual for a team to change their sponsor but keep the same kit from the season before. But
yeah,
that's what they did with the third kit. Um, yeah, Keith Gillespie, of course, used to play for United in the 90s. Came through the youth setup, went on to Newcastle. But at that
mm,
stage, he played for Sheffield United, and he got the opener against us. I think it was a really good goal as well from outside the box. And as you said, Rooney got a brace. But another thing I remember about that game is Ronaldo missing from about 5 yards out. He
yeah,
somehow managed to scoop the ball into the rosette from close range and an open goal. Couldn't believe it really, but shows you how it can happen to anyone. If the ball just bobbles in front of you, you can get underneath it quite easily.
yeah, yeah. I think it's happened to all of us at some stage.
Yeah, definitely. And then came the clash of the Titans. I was playing Mourinho's Chelsea at Old Trafford. Lou Saha scored a brilliant curling effort. I remember from the edge of the area, he
Yeah,
used the defender who blindsided the goalkeeper, and he
I think it might
curled
have
it around
been
the defender. Cudicini
Ricardo.
couldn't get a hand to it.
Sorry, was it Ricardo Carvalho? Might have been the defender.
think it was, yeah.
That was a
I
great
remember
goal.
Andy Gray saying he uses a defender, he uses him, uh, and he curled it around the defender, and the goalkeeper was onsided, and he couldn't keep it out. So it was a great finish into the bottom left
Great
hand
finish.
corner.
Brilliant.
And then Drogba does what Drogba does and scored from a header from a corner towards
Mm.
the end of the game, and Mourinho's Chelsea stole a point.
And that was,
Which
if you remember, that was a huge title top of the table clash. Because United were kind of. I remember from memory, I think we were 3 points clear at the time. We might have been 6 points clear, and we kind of kept Chelsea at arm's length between the start of the season and then. So it was a huge top of the table clash at the time, and I remember being disappointed that we didn't win the game and open up a bit of a gap. But looking back now, a draw was probably a good result.
um, I thought it was Drogba who scored the header in that game, but my notes is
Was it
saying that it's
Carvalho?
Carvalho who scored.
I think, yeah, it
Um,
could have been Carvalho. Yeah, could be right.
mm, yeah, I'm just so used to Drogba scoring headers that I just assumed that it was him. But yeah, it might have been Carvalho. It was definitely a goal from a corner, no doubt about
Yeah,
that. And it was completely undeserved, in my opinion. I thought we were the better team that night, and it was a missed
yeah.
opportunity to really open up a large gap between us and Chelsea. But
Like we'd beaten them 12 months before that. If you remember, we beat them.
Fletcher, yeah,
Darren Fletcher with the big looping header, and we were a lot weaker that season, and we managed to beat them. So yeah, it's funny how these things go.
yeah, that was a bit of a surprise result. Nobody expected United to win the year before, and we did. And obviously, when we were a lot better a year on, we didn't win the game. But that's football for you.
Yeah,
Um, so moving into December, I remember us beating Manchester City 3-1 at Old Trafford. Again, Rooney and Ronaldo involved. Uh, I remember Joey Barton playing in that game. He's one of the most unlikable footballers there's ever been.
yeah.
And did he score in that game for Man City, or who was it scored for them? I can't.
I I think it might have been a fullback that scored, maybe Trebelsi or someone like that. Um, it
Yeah,
was a consolation goal, really, because we were dominating and we were 2-0 up at the time. So I think Rooney put us ahead after about 5 minutes. It's a great ball in from Ronaldo, a low ball across the box, and Rooney just finished it beautiful, first time finish.
left foot,
And
wasn't it?
yeah, and then Saha put us 2-0 up after, or just before half time. So, and I think City pulled the goal back, and Ronaldo scored a third goal in later on. So
Yeah, I think it was Chelsea. I think that does sound familiar, but
that win put us 9 points clear of Chelsea, who might have had a game in hand the next day. Perhaps they played on the Sunday, but I think that Manchester derby was the early kickoff, maybe 12:30 on a Saturday, something like that. But to go 9 points clear was a big psychological blow at the time.
yeah, I think it was an early kickoff. So in those days, you know, before I started to get into pubs in maybe the second half of the season, but in the first half of that season, and at times in the second half of the season, I would have listened to the match on like a portable radio that I had in my pocket and put
Yeah,
like the earphones in, and I'd be
was that
updating every score of the game and all.
was that BBC Five Live by any
Yeah,
chance?
yeah, it would have been, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I was the same. I used to have a radio at home, and I didn't have Sky Sports, so I'd either go out to the pub or I'd listen to the game on Five Live on the radio. So it was one or the other. I think I turned 17 in February, so I started to go out more, socialize a bit more. So, did you turn 17 throughout that season as well?
Yes, in December I did, yeah.
Okay.
And on my birthday weekend, it was a major disappointment when Nigel Rio-Coker scored in a 1-0 win for
Yes.
West Ham at Upton Park. So that was
Yeah.
a wee bit of a setback for United.
And West Ham were a funny team that season because they had signed Carlos Tevez and Javier Mascherano in the summer, I remember being really jealous of both those signings because there were two players that I would have loved to have seen United sign, and we needed a striker as well. Well, we felt we needed a striker to replace Rude. And I think if you remember, we were linked with Tevez, and I think we might have been linked with Fernando Torres as well at the time before he went to Liverpool the following year. But it worked out okay without a centre forward in the end. But yeah, I remember that game against West Ham. That was a disappointing one because I think it came off the back of another 7-game winning streak. So yeah, that was well and truly snapped against West Ham that day. But Upton Park was a bit of a bogey ground for us.
Yeah, I think we were 12 games unbeaten going to that match, and we were 8 points clear. So
Okay,
we had a bit of a cushion, but it's never nice to lose. Um, so going closer to Christmas, then we won 3-0 away at Aston Villa, and that game is
right.
remembered for Paul Scholes' sensational volley from 25 yards in and off the underside of the bar.
What a goal!
And that month in particular produced some of the craziest goals in Premier League history. It definitely goes down as the best goal of the month award competition, and you always see it being shared on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. All the goals from that month. I remember even two Chelsea goals that month. Lampard and Drogba scored a
Yes,
Goodison. There were so
yeah,
many crackers. Matty Taylor for Portsmouth from near the halfway line.
that's
Um,
right. Yeah,
I think Essien against Arsenal outside of the right foot from about 30 yards out. That was another one that month. There were so
cracker,
many
cracker.
crackers, but Scholes, I think, won the competition in the end. Unbelievable strike. Uh,
Yeah,
I think Giggs takes a corner, then it's headed out by a defender, and Scholes just hits it on the volley. And it
first
just,
time, yeah, bang in off the crossbars. I think a goal is always nicer looking when it hits the bar first and drops in. Whatever is in it, it's just
yeah,
class. Great goal, and I think it was very reminiscent of the goal he scored against Bradford. Remember a few years earlier when Beckham played him the corner and he just volleyed it, whacked it straight in.
yeah. Against Bradford, it went into the bottom corner, whereas this one was
Yeah,
hit
in off the bar.
the off the bar. I think Ronaldo scored in that game as well. I remember him having his hair all gelled back.
I think he
And
might have got a brace. Yeah,
yeah, I think he probably did. Yeah.
and that was when
Um.
we were wearing the lovely white kit with the gold. Remember the gold trim on the collar
Yes.
here.
Yes. I had that jersey that season. I had Ronaldo on the back as well. I think I might have got it for Christmas actually. The long sleeve version with Ronaldo on the back.
Lovely kit.
Yeah.
Nice kit, wasn't it? Really nice.
Yeah, it was. And yeah, it says here in my notes the match had many highlights, not least of which were Cristiano Ronaldo's dazzling form and a 25-yard volleyed goal from Paul Scholes, which was voted the BBC's goal of the month for December 2006. And to win that goal of the month award, it had to be a damn good goal because of the quality of the goals that month, and still uh, stuff of legend. The goals that month, you always see it being shared online all the time.
Yeah,
Um, but Ronaldo's contribution did not stop with his two goals against Villa, as he scored two more in braces against Wigan and Reading. I think those games were at Old Trafford, weren't they?
yeah. They were after Christmas, I think, during the festive period.
Yeah.
Um, and United were in a good bit of form there coming into the new year.
And the Portuguese youngster won 5 out of the 6 Man of the Match awards for December, and he was named Player of the Month for December, unsurprisingly. Um, So the club's form did not immediately transfer into New Year's as the Red Devils failed to beat Newcastle on New Year's Day. So I think that must have been a draw.
Yeah,
And
two each.
then, yeah, 2 each draw. Who scored in that match?
I think Paul Scholes scored for us anyway. Not sure who got the first one, but I remember Scholes scored from distance.
Did he score twice
Um,
in that game? I think one was deflected.
yeah,
Uh,
possibly. And I know James Milner got a really good goal for Newcastle.
yeah, it's coming back to me now. Yeah, I was going to say Milner there myself. Yeah. Um, it's always a difficult game for us at St James's.
Mm.
Um, And then we lost to Arsenal at the Emirates when we were
Oh,
leading for so long. Rooney scoring that diving header from a Patrice Evra cross,
yeah.
and then
And the
they got two late
blue kit.
goals, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Van Persie, I think, with the equaliser, and Henri with the winner, if I remember correctly.
I was sick, absolutely sick after that game. To lose in stoppage time like that to Arsenal. I don't think Arsenal were in the title race. They were more battling for a Champions League spot at the time, maybe. And but it was still a difficult place to go. Equally, always a hard place to go to the Emirates. But to go from 1-0 up to 2-1 down like that was just devastating at the time. Um,
Yeah, it
yeah,
was a massive blow, considering we were in front for so long. It's not like us to concede two late goals. Normally, we're the ones inflicting that sort of damage on other teams. But
yeah,
we have to mention the fact that United in December announced the signing of Henrik Larsson on a loan deal from
mhm,
Helsingborgs. Um,
yeah.
and he made his debut in the FA Cup third round against Aston Villa. And he scored on his debut, didn't he? And him
Yeah,
and Rooney linked up as if they've been playing together for 10 years.
they did. It was crazy. It was just a seamless partnership that they struck up. And I was always a huge Henrik Larsson fan when he was at Celtic. I remember years ago, RTE here in Ireland used to show live SPL games. You'd often see Celtic Rangers games, and Larsson was just, he was an iconic striker. And what he went on to do with Barcelona after that as well, winning the Champions League, it was just a player I always wanted to see play for United. And to see him sign for my club then was just brilliant. It was just a shame he wasn't a little bit younger. But he was class. He took his goal really well against his former manager as well, Martin O'Neill, for Villa. And I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer scored a late winner. Um, Remember that goalkeeper who wore the tracksuit bottoms? Can't think of his name. Was it Kirali, Gabor Kirali, something like that?
Yeah, I can picture him in his joggings, but I can't remember his name. Yeah, I
Yeah,
know I know who you mean.
he made a bit of a holder that day, and we won the game late on.
Yeah, it was right underneath him, wasn't it? Ollie shot. He done a
Yeah,
bit of a Taibi, didn't he?
yeah.
Um, yeah, I think Fergie wanted to sign Larson much earlier. It's someone that he wanted to sign directly from Celtic, but he was very loyal to Celtic, and then eventually he went to Barcelona on a free, and he won them the Champions League with the two assists in the final. And then he went back to Sweden, and then we probably thought the chance for Larson to come to United it came and went at that stage when he was 35 years old, but Fergie had other
Yeah.
ideas, and because the reason why he was still able to play at the highest level at 35 because he had it up here. He was a very intelligent footballer as well,
Yeah,
and
class.
he he linked up with Rooney as if seamlessly, as you said. You think they've been playing together for a decade, and
And
that was the
just a
first
word
game.
on sorry, just a word on Lewis Zaha. He had a really good start to the season, particularly in the Champions League. He was scoring quite a few goals, but I think he might have possibly picked up an injury, and that kind of led to us bringing Larson in on loan. And I think it has to go down as probably the best loan signing or one of the best loan signings in Premiership history.
Yeah, the only disappointment was that he didn't stay to the end of the season, and I think he has said several times since then that he wishes that he stayed to the end of the season.
Yeah,
Um, but he again, it was the typical of Larson. He was very loyal to his hometown club, and he gave them his word that he would return in mid March for the start of their season. And he showed throughout his career that he was very loyal and a man of his word. So, but it would have been brilliant for United if he had stayed to the end of the season. But I think he did get a medal in the end. Uh,
I think so. I think
yeah,
there was special dispensation made for him to receive a medal, but he definitely played his part. He was excellent in that 10 week period.
yep. And then we will move on to February, and it was a devastating defeat of Tottenham. we absolutely murdered them that day. I think it was 4-0, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Um, I remember that game, John O'Shea going into goal when Van der Sar took a knee in the face from Robbie Keane accidentally, and he had
yes,
to go off with concussion and a broken nose. And I think Ferdinand was initially going to go into goal, and then it ended up being John O'Shea. And
yeah,
Robbie Keane tried to nutmeg him, and he failed because Jono kept his legs closed, and it didn't work out. So he
yeah,
managed to preserve the clean sheet. But yeah, I thought United were brilliant that day. I remember listening to it on the radio and then watching it
brilliant.
on Match that day. I think Vidic
I
scored in
think
that game, the header, didn't
Vidic,
he?
yeah, he did, and that was another thing as well. Vidic and Ferdinand's partnership that season was just sensational. I think Vidic and Evra had come in the previous January, and they needed that 6 month spell to kind of almost bed in and get used to English football. But that season they were outstanding. Evra was brilliant at left back, and Vidic and Ferdinand, as we said, was just one of the best partnerships ever. And that was the first season where it caught fire, and that was probably the bedrock that won us the title that year. But yeah, Vidic got a great header that day against Tottenham.
Scholes and Giggs scored as well, and Ronaldo scored a penalty. I remember
Mm-hmm.
a foul on Larson that I don't think it wasn't given as a penalty. And I remember Andy Gray saying that's a clumsy, clumsy tackle. The linesman put his flag up and back down again because the linesman was going to flag for a penalty and then he changed his mind. But to me, when you watch the replay, I mean, if VAR was around then, it would have been a definite penalty for United. Yeah, so Larson was wreaking havoc in that game as well, even though he didn't get on the score sheet. And yeah, but the game is probably most famous for John O'Shea ending up in goal for the final 10 minutes of the match and preserving the clean sheet
Yeah.
and making a
Mm-hmm.
save from a one-on-one with Robbie Keane. He wouldn't have fancied his chances in that situation, but Jono was a versatile man, and he played pretty much every position for United, didn't he? Um,
He did,
and
yeah.
and he would go on to make another major contribution, which we will get to in a few minutes. But also in February, we won 2-0 against Charlton at home, and then we beat Fulham away. Brian McBride scoring off the inside of the post to give them the lead. Ryan Giggs scored a absolute magnificent volley with the outside of his left foot to equalise. And then Ronaldo scored a deflected winner where he ran from the
Mm-hmm.
halfway line, beating about three Fulham players, and then a deflected shot into the far right hand corner. And I remember the bench and all running onto the field to celebrate.
Yeah.
It felt like an important moment,
Massive.
getting that late winner.
That was the
Um,
day before that game. That Fulham game was the day before my 17th birthday, so it was the perfect gift to get such a brilliant, dramatic late win. And it felt like a turning point in the title race where we went 9 points clear again. Massive psychological blow to Chelsea. With United winning that late on, it was just fantastic, and it was probably Ronaldo's finest, one of many finest moments that season. What a run and great finish, outstanding.
yeah, I think I might have been I was doing my A levels at that point, so I might have been doing my coursework, and I was listening to the game on the radio. And when Ronaldo scored, I started jumping up and down on the bed.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's my memory from that game. Um, so
brilliant.
United then, I think they played Liverpool shortly after that at Anfield,
Yeah,
and obviously it's one of the most special days in the Premier League era at Anfield for United. If we're being honest, I think Liverpool were probably the better team on the day. I
mm,
remember Van der Sar making a save from close range from Peter Crouch. Looked like
yeah,
all the world he was going to score. I think Liverpool had a goal ruled out for offside by Dirk Kuyt. And
yes,
if
yeah,
I'm
and
honest,
yeah,
I'm not sure that it was offside. I haven't seen the replay. If VAR had been there, it might have been given. Um, but
well,
having said that, United were denied a clear penalty when Louis Saha was taken down in the box
Yeah,
at the top end. It's just an obvious penalty that wasn't given by Martin Atkinson. And I think Paul Scholes was sent off in that game for swinging a punch at Xabi Alonso.
yeah,
um,
yeah.
Even though he didn't connect, he was given the red for intent. And it looked as if we were going to struggle then with the 10 men in the closing stages. Larson started that game as well. It might have been his final game for United, final league game anyway.
No, yeah, yeah, possibly his last league game. He was there for another couple of weeks. I think that was the 3rd of March, and he played
Mm,
against Lille in the Champions League after, and Middlesbrough in the FA Cup as well. So it might have been his last league game, possibly. But
yeah,
Saha came on. He was taken off for Louis Saha, and Saha actually had a good impact on the game. And like you said, he should have had a penalty, but he injected a little bit of energy and vigour into United's play. Do you remember Rooney had to come off as well? A horrific challenge by Jamie Carragher. Um,
yeah.
Put his studs down on his tie. I think he had to get a good few stitches after that as well, but shocking tackle.
Carragher did the same thing to Nani a few seasons later as well. And
Yeah,
it,
awful.
Carragher was just a hatchet man, wasn't he?
Yeah,
And then the moment of the match that everybody remembers was in stoppage time. United got a free kick on the left hand side. I think Ryan Giggs might have had his shirt tugged or something by
yeah,
Steve Finnan. So Steve Finnan, the Irish right back, I think was playing that day
yeah.
for Liverpool. And then it's Ronaldo who fizzes one in, and it's O'Shea has broken too. And John O'Shea has done it in stoppage
Brilliant.
time. Isn't that just the hallmark of champions? It hasn't been their best
Fantastic.
day. They've ridden their luck, but they've got the goal.
Oh, iconic commentary there. I can't remember who the commentary was on Sky Sports, but
It was Rob Hawthorne, I think it was.
Rob Hawthorne, okay. But yeah, those lines are ingrained into everybody's memory now at this stage. And I was actually out in the pub that day with some mates from school, and I probably would have settled for a draw at that point, being down to 10 men at Anfield. But just United did what United do, and scoring in stoppage time like that was I absolutely went mental. I don't know how I wasn't thrown out of the pub. I was just up like, yeah, just giving it all that. I actually knocked over a stool, and I celebrated, ran out the front door of the pub, came back in, was still giving it all that to the Liverpool fans on my left up at the bar and stuff. I don't know how I wasn't barred, but it was worth every second of it. Sensational. I think that's probably my best moment at Anfield, or seeing United win at Anfield, I suppose. Just that'll go down as the best win in my opinion. Brilliant, great
Yeah,
memories.
I was so happy that day myself. Yeah, I was in the pub too with my mates, and even though we were 17, and one of my mates supports Liverpool, so he was absolutely devastated while I was elated. So, yeah, I remember even celebrating on the streets outside the pub as well. I was happy for so long, and uh, it was one of those wins that when you beat Liverpool like that, you're on a high for hours on end, don't you? Bit like when Maguire
Oh,
scored this season.
weeks, weeks.
Yeah, yeah, weeks.
But I think it
Yeah,
was a huge win again because Chelsea would have been banking on us dropping points at Anfield. So the fact that we swung it the other way and went 9 points clear again was massive, And I think after that game we kind of had one hand on the title. And don't forget it was it our third? Yeah, we'd gone nearly 4 years without winning the Premiership at that stage. So the pressure was really on, to try and get it back. And remember the song, the United fans, Mourinho, are you listening? You
yeah,
better keep our trophy glistening. It's fantastic. I think that day we definitely put one hand on the title.
yeah. It was sensational, and we followed that up by beating Bolton at Old Trafford. I think that was on St Paddy's Day that year.
Yeah,
Um, I think Jason Park scored in that game. Ronaldo, of course. Rooney, of course. Yeah, my standout moment from that Bolton game was the counter attack involving Rooney and Ronaldo.
yeah, Yeah,
and
brilliant. What a
it
goal.
was and Rooney finished it off by chipping it over the goalkeeper. And I remember the commentator saying, "Is Rooney? Can he take it all the way? You bet he can."
Yeah, that has to go down as one of the great counter-attacking United goals, I think. And also another memory from that game was Gary Neville was tackled by Gary Speed, God rest his soul, and Neville actually damaged his ankle ligaments, I think, and he actually missed the entirety of the following season, which was why Wes Brown was our starting right back in 07-08. So Nev picked up a bad injury that day.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, and I do remember that Neville played almost no part in the following season. Because even when we won the Champions League the year after, Gary Neville was in his suit, celebrating with the players.
That's
Um,
right, yeah.
yeah, Gary Speed scored that day for Bolton. He got the consolation actually.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so we ended up beating Blackburn 4-1 at Old Trafford that month as well. And I think the arch poacher Matt Derbyshire scored for Blackburn in that game. But we ran out 4-1 winners. Um, I think Vidic was forced off with a broken collarbone in that match.
Yeah, yeah. It's a huge
Um,
loss, yeah. Bad time to get a big injury like that.
yeah, it was. But I think Derbyshire gave Blackburn the lead, and then Paul Scholes equalised after 61 minutes, and then Michael Carrick scored to make it 2-1. Park scored the third goal, and then Solskjaer, I think, was the final goal for United, scoring the fourth goal that day. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
that's right, yeah. And I think that game was live on RTE too, free to air, Irish TV. So there was for a stage for about 3 years, RTE used to show live Premiership games, and that was one of them. So I watched it at home. So it was nice to be able to watch it from the comfort of my own home for once, and it was a big win. Frustrating game, but once Scholes got the equalising goal, it was kind of a jinking run where he beat two or three men and just finished into the bottom corner. And then Carrick gave us the
Mm-hmm.
lead, and Partey Sung and Solskjaer scored his last ever goal. So we kind of ran away with it in the end. But Blackburn they were a team at the time that always made it difficult. Brad Friedel, the American keeper, always seemed to have a worldie in goals for whatever reason. But yeah, it was a good win that day, and another one of those where we took a step closer to winning the league.
Yeah, absolutely. Brad Friedel was a constant thorn in our side. He would, even the following season, I remember making life difficult for us at Ewood Park. Um, yeah, United ran out 4-1 winners that day, and yeah, I forgot about that. The Scholes individual goal. Now you wouldn't often see Scholes skinning players the way Ronaldo would do or Rooney would do, but that was sensational, wasn't it? The way he was just weaving in and out and beating players, and
That's
then they finished the match.
mm,
Um, so in April we actually suffered a 2-1 loss at Fratton Park. Um, Matt Taylor gave Pompey the lead. I think wasn't there a mix-up between Van der Sar and one of our defenders?
it
I
was
think.
Rio Ferdinand. Yeah, it was an own
Yeah.
goal where he tried to pass it back to Van der Sar and he just misjudged totally and it went straight in. It was an embarrassing own goal.
Yeah, very, very rare for that United defence to concede a goal like that. Um, yeah, I think Van der Sar had a poor day overall. He parried a Benjani shot, and I think Matt Taylor scored the rebound. And then the second goal, as we talked about, um, Ferdinand tried to play the ball back to him, and they just total miscommunication, and the ball went straight in past Van der Sar, and it was probably a lost cause then. But John O'Shea did pull one back in stoppage time, but United, it was too late then to
And I
get.
think Alan Smith actually made his comeback from a long layoff with the leg break the season before, and he almost scored with a volley at the end. But I think it was David James actually saved it. So we nearly got a point out of it in the end, but unfortunately we lost.
Yeah, earlier in the game, James denied Ronaldo and Giggs. And yeah, and now that you mentioned it, I remember it. James denied Alan Smith a last gap equaliser. Wasn't it a volley or something? It
On the
was a
volley, yeah.
yeah.
And I think Fergie started playing Smith as a striker again, because remember the season before he was moved back into midfield, so he was reconverted back to a centre forward again, which probably suited his game a little bit better. No, he was never the same player, of course, but
Yeah, I wasn't really a fan of him playing midfield, to be honest. And it's a big conversion after being a striker, and like he did okay, but it was a lot. It was asking a lot of him, given
mhm,
it wasn't his position.
yeah,
Um, so United beat Sheffield United 2-0 at Old Trafford. Um, I think Michael Carrick lifted one over the goalkeeper very early in the game to give United the lead, and
yeah,
Rooney doubled United's lead with an emphatic finish after 50 minutes. Um, but that month also was when we absolutely annihilated Roma at Old Trafford 7-1. Um,
yeah.
Absolutely unbelievable performance by United. I mean, that is arguably the best performance by a United team in my lifetime. What do you think, Jerry?
I think so. Yeah. I've been following United now over 25 years, so there's been many good performances I've seen, but I think that has to go down as the standout for me. Just everything we hit just went in the net. Sensational performance, and it's the like I'm yet to kind of see repeated. It's just brilliant from start to finish. From getting the early goal from Carrick, and Alan Smith, who we just spoke about there, scored a fantastic goal as well. And Rooney, Ronaldo, Carrick again, Evra even scored. Everything we struck just went in the net, and that performance will go down as one of the legendary ones and one of the great European nights at Old Trafford.
Yeah, unbelievable. I think we lost the first leg 2-1 in Rome. I know Rooney scored for United in that game. It was a counter attack involving Ronaldo, Solskjaer, and Rooney, and Rooney finished it off. But we lost the game 2-1. Did we go down to 10 men on that away leg as well? I think.
Yeah, Paul Scholes got two bookings in the first half.
Yeah,
It could have
yeah,
proved
but
very costly, but thankfully Rooney got a vital away goal, like you said, and that gave us a glimmer of hope then going into Old Trafford, and we just absolutely blew them away, didn't we?
yeah, it was an unbelievable performance. Like you said, everything went in. United were scoring team goals. They were scoring crackers from outside the box. Michael Carrick scored I think it was the sixth goal. Carrick absolutely rifled one into the top corner from outside the
Yeah,
box. He might have scored the opening goal as well, Carrick.
he did. Yeah, he kind of chipped it over the goalie. Do you remember the goalie was the Brazilian Doni?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. But
yeah,
I think there was a brilliant move in which Rooney finished off. It hit the inside of the post and went in. Giggs was
yeah,
involved in it. It was sensational football.
yeah.
Um, Ronaldo scored that night as well. I remember a
In the
solo effort.
goal. That's right. And the commentary when Rooney scored from Clive Tildesley, the ball was crossed and he was just like Rooney. It was just
Yeah.
fantastic. Iconic stuff. Um, take me back, take me back.
Did Evra score the seventh goal? I think,
He did,
didn't
and it
he?
was
Yeah.
might have even been on his right foot. Was it on? It was. I'm not sure. I can't remember, but it was deflected in a way. And it kind of trickled in.
Mm. Yeah, it was that his first goal for United, I think, as well. Um,
Possible. I think he might have got one against Everton earlier in the season, in a Premiership game.
uh, yeah, but yeah, it was a scintillating performance, but one of the best I've ever seen,
Yeah,
and absolutely blew them away. And we didn't mention it, but in the group stage, United finished top of their group with Celtic,
yeah,
Copenhagen, and Benfica United finished top of the group. We
That's
we
right.
we beat Celtic 3-2 at Old Trafford, but we lost 1-0 at Parkhead, and Nakamura scored a
Nakamura,
free kick in both games. I
yeah.
remember.
Saha missed a penalty, or Boric saved a penalty from Saha at Celtic Park as well.
Yeah, that's right. I remember Clive Tisley saying, "Who's going to be the hero, Zaha or Boric?" Boric. Like,
Yeah, that was a sore one. That was a tough one. It was a painful defeat losing to Celtic, but thankfully we beat Benfica on the final group day. I think we beat them 3-1 at Old Trafford, and that was enough to take us through top of the group.
yeah, Vidic, Giggs, and Zaha scored in that win.
And
Um,
another one I should mention as well from the Champions League that year was Ryan Giggs' quick free kick in the round of 16 against Lille
yep.
out in France. That was brilliant as well. It's real imaginative, clever thinking, wasn't it? To clip it in, curl it in like that.
Yeah, they were so incensed, the Lille players, that they were going to walk off the pitch, weren't they?
Yeah,
But it was so over the top, their reaction. Giggs actually said, you know, I've got the DVD of that season, and during his interview about that incident, Giggs says that he asked the referee for permission to take it quick. So there's not the Lille had no leg to stand on there. And then in the home leg at Old Trafford, I think it was Larsson's final appearance, and he scored the winning goal with a header from a Ronaldo left-footed cross, I think.
yeah, yeah. That's right. A nice way to bow out as well. Getting the winner and seeing us through to the quarterfinals.
Yep. Uh, and then in the semi-finals, it didn't go so well. A cracking game at Old Trafford in the first leg against AC Milan. We
Yeah,
were 2-1 down, and then Rooney scored the winner for sure, didn't he?
yeah. He equalised as well. It went 1-0.
Yeah, he
Ronaldo
did.
put us one up early on, and then there was a mix-up. I think we were missing Vidic and Rio. They were both injured at the time. So we had a centre back pairing of Wes Brown and Gabriel Heinze. So it wasn't ideal facing a side like Milan. That was a top tier AC Milan team. And Kaka got a brace in the first half, so we were up against it. And then Rooney equalised. Remember, Scholes kind of scooped a pass over the defence, and Rooney finished it off.
Yes.
And then
Yep.
in the last kick of the game, basically, Rooney just rattled one past Dida to win the
At his
game
near
2-2.
post. He beat him at his near
Yeah,
post, didn't he?
yeah,
The
fantastic. It's great, great ending.
the crowd just went berserk when he scored that game. The stadium was vibrating.
Mm,
Yeah, I think Tisley did it again, didn't he? Went Rudy,
yeah, brilliant stuff.
and yeah, I think the United opener came from, was it an own goal from a corner?
It was
Um,
a Ronaldo header, but I think it might have gone in off Dida. He was a scramble on the line and it just bounced in.
yeah, I think
It was one of
Ainsley
those
was involved in scrambling it over the line, but I think it came off
scrappy
a,
goal.
yeah, it was a real scrappy goal. Yeah, but we have to mention Kaka's like second goal. He absolutely just he skint Evra, Ainsley, and Fletcher, and then he slotted it past Van der Sar. It was a sensational, world class goal. Um,
I think he was
for
probably the best player in the world around that time as well. I think did he win the Ballon d'Or that season?
I think he did, because they went on to win the Champions League. I beat Liverpool in the
Mm.
final, thankfully. We were so close that year to a Liverpool United final. Imagine that. That would have
Oh,
been unreal. Um, it's that type of game scares me, because winning it is like the ultimate, but losing it would be crushing, wouldn't it? Losing a final to Liverpool like that.
yeah, I don't think
Um,
you'd ever recover from something like that. So in a way, I'm kind of glad that didn't materialise. And Liverpool at the time under Benitez, they were more of a cup team where they kind of played a lot of defensive kind of football and ground out results, and they kind of suited playing in Europe at the time, I think. But it was a relief to see Filippo Inzaghi score a brace to beat them in the final. He was on in Athens, I think, that year.
Yeah, it was.
Because I remember at the time people were saying AIG on the sponsor stood for Athens is gone when we got knocked out.
Yeah, I remember that too. Because we lost the second leg at the San Siro 3-0, and
Yeah,
we were comprehensively outplayed that night. Seardorf was sensational that night. He might have been in his twilight years, but he had it up here. Seardo, he was a sensational footballer. Uh,
unbelievable.
I think Vidic played that night, and he was just back from injury, and he was a
Mm,
bit short of match practice. And I remember him getting done on the counter attack for their third goal, and that
yeah.
ended the dream of the All English final. Um, yeah, it didn't go so well, but
We were outclassed that night in Milan, but it was a daunting task in a way going to the San Siro. But when you're going there with so many injuries, I think we were in the midst of an injury crisis at the time. It was always going to be an uphill task. But I think United as a team and as a squad, we learned from that night. There was a lot of lessons learned, and it probably helped us grow in the long run and become the team that we went on to become the following season when we ultimately won the Champions League. So I think that game really stood to us in the long run. Probably a little bit too inexperienced to go to Milan and win at the time, but no, definitely helped us accomplish our goal of becoming champions of Europe again.
and we would get revenge on Milan in 2010 when we absolutely destroyed them
Yeah,
in the last 16, I think it was. And so let's move on to Everton then at Goodison Park when we went on the 28th of April, I think it was, and we went 2-0 down that day. I remember Alan Stubbs scored from a free kick, I think, and then Fernandez, a guy called Fernandez,
yeah,
smashed one in past Van der Sar after about 50 minutes, and it looked as if we were letting Chelsea back in the title race because I think Chelsea played at the same time that day against Bolton at Stamford Bridge.
yes,
So
that's
the
right.
the table kept changing quite a bit. You would have a 6 point gap, then level on points, and then 3 point gap. It
Mm.
kept changing throughout the 90 minutes.
And I
And
think
in
it
the
might have
end,
been, was it a half 12 kickoff as well? It might have been an early kickoff
it
from just
was,
from
yeah.
memory. Yeah,
Yeah, it was. It didn't look good when we went 2-0 down, but we ended up winning 4-2,
yeah,
turning it around. So we got one back in the strangest of circumstances when Phil Neville, of all people, scored an own goal. He,
mm,
he tried to clear one off the line, and he should have went with his left foot, and he went with his right foot, and he ended up just hooking it into the net.
yeah,
Uh, and then John O'Shea scored from a corner. I think um, t- United had sold Everton Tim Howard, but they put in the contract that he wasn't allowed to play in that game. I'm not even sure that was legal of United to do that. So a guy called Turner played in the game for United, for Everton, and he dropped one, didn't he? And John O'Shea poked it in.
yeah.
And then Rooney scored the third goal. Uh, I think he seen off Carsley. He dummied him, and then he slotted it past the keeper.
Lovely
And
finish. Yeah,
yeah, and then he kissed in the badge, and which was incendiary towards the Everton fans.
yeah,
And then Chris Eagles famously got the fourth goal. He nearly fell over, and then he composed himself and scored a nice curling shot into the far corner. I remember Andy Gray saying, "He almost falls over there, Chris Eagles. He got a little excited, but he sells himself beautifully."
yeah. I do miss Andy Gray. I really miss Andy
Yeah,
Gray's commentary now. I don't condone everything that happened with Sky Sports back then, but you have to miss Andy Gray and Martin Tyler. It was an iconic partnership in the commentary box. But yeah, Chris Eagles. There's one for the trivia quiz. Um,
and
Fantastic, great goal, and what a win! Sensational.
I think just before Chris Eagles scored, Fergie was signalling to the players that it's 2 each at Stamford Bridge, because I
Yes,
remember
that's right. Yeah,
the update came that Uberle Mikalik shook Stamford Bridge with an equaliser to make it 2 each, and that that created a ended up creating a 5 or 6 point gap, didn't it? By the end of the day, and at one point in the afternoon, United and Chelsea were level on points, but we ended up with a 5 point gap in the end, so it brought us closer to the title. And then I think it was the beginning of May, we won 1-0 in the Manchester Derby. Ronaldo scoring a penalty, and if you remember, was it Michael Ball? He stood on Ronaldo that day, and you could see the mark.
Yeah.
On his ribs. It was a thuggish thing to do, and he should have been sent off, but it wasn't
Hmm.
spotted by the referee. But he ended up bringing Ronaldo down in the penalty area, and Ronaldo took the penalty away, and we kept a clean sheet away from home. We defended when we had to. It wasn't a spectacular performance, but it's all about getting the points at that stage of the season, and we
And
won
Van der
1-0.
Sar saved a penalty as well. The
Yes,
right
yes.
as well, yeah.
Yeah, it was
Was it?
near the end of the game. Yeah, it was straight down the middle, wasn't it? And they hit him in the midriff.
Yeah,
He managed to kind of use his waist or something to block it and went up in the air. It was a poor
massive. Yeah,
penalty.
it was a huge save though, and what a win! I think that was the weekend where we were actually confirmed champions.
Yes,
'Cause
because on the Sunday, Arsenal were playing Chelsea at the Emirates, and I think it ended up in a draw, didn't it? And it was enough to confirm us as champions. And I remember Mourinho going up to the Chelsea away section, going, "Keep your chin up, keep your chin up."
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it was really bizarre, but it was one of those moments that sticks with you forevermore. But what a weekend! I remember getting a few bottles of cheap champagne that weekend, and I think I spent my lunch money from school during the week on that, and going out and just celebrating the title with my mates was just fantastic. And those are the memories that you never forget. And winning the title after a 4 year wait, I think it was 2003 when we last won it. So it was just brilliant. And we gone through a couple of barren years as well in 03, oh 04 and 04, oh 05, oh 05, oh 06 as well. So it was just unreal to win the trophy back finally. And it was the start of a dynasty, I suppose, a new era of United dominance where we went on and won another three-peat, winning the three premierships in a row again for the second time. Probably the start of Fergie's last great team, I would say.
yeah, it was. There was a slight fear from United fans that Mourinho's Chelsea were going to dominate English football, but
Yes,
that this was the season that we ended um, their chances of making it three in a row. And I remember we ended up playing them at Stamford Bridge, and we played a real youthful team because they'd already won the league. But I remember
yeah,
the United away fans were all mocking Mourinho, doing the chin up thing in the away end. Um, and they had to give us a guard of honor onto the pitch.
mm,
I remember
brilliant
even
stuff.
there was a lot of youngsters played in that game. I think even the Chinese fella, Dong,
Dong
played in that
Fang
game,
Zhu,
didn't he?
yeah, Dong Fang Zhu, and I think Chris Eagles played, and Thomas Kuszczak. There was a few others, Kieran Richardson, and who else? I think Gabriel Heinze maybe even captained the team. I think he captained the side that night. It was a really youthful team, and it was nice to come away with a point as well. Because when the lineup got named that night, I was thinking we're definitely going to lose here. Not that it mattered because we were already champions, but it would have been nice to not lose, and it was great that we held on and got a point,
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to lose any game at all, even if it doesn't matter. Um,
especially to the rivals as well. You know.
yeah, 100%. But it must have been hard for them to stomach, giving us a guard of honor under the pitch after the
Mhm.
success that they had had in the previous two seasons. Um, but yeah, I remember United then on the day that we lifted the title, we played West Ham at Old Trafford, and a little fella called Carlos Tevez scored the winner in that game.
Mm.
It didn't dampen our spirits at all. Neither did the rain. It was a day of celebration, but obviously that would be Tevez's last game for West Ham. You go on to play for United in the next two seasons. Um, but yeah, that's when he really, you know, sealed the deal. Really, I'm sure he caught the attention of United's
Yeah,
scouts and Fergie before that, but that goal probably sealed the deal.
yeah. I think
But
there was rumors the previous summer as well when I think he was at Corinthians in Brazil before he went to West Ham, but it obviously didn't materialise. But I think Tevez single-handedly almost kept West Ham in the league that year. He scored 6 or 7 goals in the running, which swung it their way, and then another vital goal at Old Trafford to win them the game. And I was just really hoping that we'd go out and sign him that summer. Then and thankfully we did. And I know he's much maligned, and a lot of United fans hate him now, but he was a great player, wasn't
Oh yeah. I just wish that we'd have kept him.
he?
Him and Fergie didn't seem that keen to keep him on beyond the 08-09 season, and I felt that he should have been kept on.
Yeah,
Um, some fans have even said that we should never have signed Berbatov. That limited Tevez's game time. Berbatov came in, and that wasn't the right decision to reduce his game time, and then even worse by you know selling him. He should have started that Champions League final that we lost. No doubt about
yeah,
that.
but I think in '08 we were the European champions and English champions, and it was the complete team for me. It was just world class all around the pitch. And how do you improve on that, really? And I think Fergie probably saw Berbatov as the next piece in the jigsaw to kind of almost that kind of Cantona-esque type player, to offer something different up front, and bring a kind of a touch of genius or a touch of class, maybe. So you can see why he brought him in from Tottenham, but it definitely kind of upset the apple cart a bit. And who knows, if Berbatov never came in, then Tevez might well have stayed on. But there was all this controversy with the third party ownership as well. It was a Kia Jurabshin was the name of the guy, the agent that owned kind of part of Tevez's representation. It was a
Hmm.
complicated sort of issue, but you can see why United maybe balked at spending the 30 million on him or whatever it was.
In today's money, that's chump change. We really
It
should
is.
have
Yeah.
signed him on a 5-year contract, but it wasn't to be. But he did 2 very successful seasons at United, and off the back of that season that he had at West Ham. So just like the Champions League, the FA Cup ended in disappointment that season, losing the final 1-0 after extra time to Chelsea in a drab affair. Let's be honest, and
Yeah.
Drogba scoring the winner in extra time, as he so often did in finals and big games. But yeah,
I
so
remember, sorry, that weekend I was in transition year in school, and we had just got our summer holidays on the Friday. FA Cup final was on the Saturday, so I was buzzing, for the game, and it was just so disappointing to lose it in the way we did. I remember I actually said to you during the week, Gabby Heinze started left back over Patrice Evra for some reason. I couldn't get my head around that decision. But it was just such a cagey, cautious kind of match, wasn't it?
yeah, it wasn't good to watch at all.
I think it
I
was the
mean,
first game at the new Wembley.
it was, yeah,
Yeah.
and it was such a letdown for all neutral observers that day. Because I can't really think of many highlights from the game other than the goal. Um, yeah, it was dire, and uh, Chelsea, I suppose, got a revenge of sorts by winning that. Um, so they managed to at least finish the season on a high from their point of view. But yeah, United, we won the league, with a few games to spare. We lost the FA Cup final and we lost in the Champions League semi final. But of course, in the following season, we would go on to improve and all that. We'd win the league again. We'd win the Champions League. And, we didn't win the FA Cup in the 08, 07 08 season because even though we ended up at Portsmouth against Cardiff finals, it was a missed opportunity because in the Portsmouth quarter final at Old Trafford, it was the most one sided loss of all time. I think they had 30 shots on goal. We've denied a clear penalty when Distan, just barged Ronaldo to the ground. I think Kushak ended up getting sent off. Um, Rio Ferdinand faced the penalty from Baros in which he scored. Might have been their only shot on target in the whole game, and we
Mm-hmm.
lost. So it could have been another treble, but sadly it wasn't to be. But and then in the 08-09 season, it was, it just shows you how far we'd come, that it was almost seen as a disappointment that we won the league, we won the League Cup, we won the FIFA World Club Cup, but we lost the Champions League final, and that felt like a
Mm.
major disappointment. So if United, right now did had a season like that, we'd be absolutely elated. But we were so
Mm.
spoiled back then. It was disappointing not to have the Champions League on top of all the other trophies.
It was, and especially for myself and your generation, growing up supporting United in the late '90s and throughout the 2000s, all we knew was winning. Um, it doesn't mean we're glory hunters. It's just what we were brought up on. That was our heritage. Really, was watching United win trophies and win leagues and compete for Champions Leagues. Um, so the standards were so high back then, driven by Alex Ferguson and Roy Keane, and then later on the likes of Vidic and Ferdinand as well, and Giggs and Scholes and Rooney. So it was just a fantastic time, and I'm just absolutely privileged that I'm able to say that I was around to witness it, because if we knew then what was to follow in the post Fergie period, it wouldn't be worth thinking about. It's been such a barren wilderness kind of years, since then. Uh, but just so glad I grew up at a time when United were dominant. And I think any Liverpool fan or whoever that comes at me now and says United are crap or whatever, I say, I've seen more title wins than you've had hot dinners.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, even now they've only won two, and one in the Premier League era, that is. But only one of those were they allowed to celebrate. Uh,
I think
well,
there's an asterisk on that one, isn't there?
yeah, the one Premier League title in an empty stadium, which is really not the same, is it? Even though they'll try to say that
No,
it is, but
no, no.
certainly we for all Liverpool fans our age, we've certainly had the better of it in the last 35 years. Um,
Definitely, by far.
so let's hope that there's more success ahead in the near future.
Yeah,
Um, it's been a pretty dreadful 13 years since Fergie left. We've had the odd wee bit of success in the Europa League and the League Cup and the FA Cup on a couple of occasions, but it's not where United want to be. We want to be winning titles and Champions Leagues, and we need to get back into just playing in the Champions League. Looking at all these big ties between big clubs at the moment. Last night and tonight, it's United should be there, shouldn't they?
oh, without a doubt. That's where we belong, is in the Champions League, and we fought so hard to get into it in the '90s as well under Ferguson, and establish ourselves in the Champions League. And we finally reached that holy grail in '99. Um, and we established ourselves then as a real force throughout the 2000s. So that's where we belong. It's too big a club to be out of the Champions League. So we need to get back in it and stay in it on a consistent basis. It's a needs must.
Yeah, it's where we belong. And just on that, um, Federico Valverde scores first half hat trick against Man City as Real Madrid run riot in the Champions League. Bit of a shocker,
Brilliant.
that.
Excellent. Brilliant. Fantastic score. Great to see.
Yeah, slightly surprised, but happy to see it. Um, I thought it would be a close game, to be honest. And Chelsea playing PSG, yeah, these are the games that United should be involved in. Newcastle playing Barcelona doesn't feel right to me. It should be United against Barcelona, not
Mm.
Newcastle. Yeah. Um, yeah, PSG 2-1 up against Chelsea at the moment now. PSG haven't been as great as they were last season. You'd expect there to be a drop off after such
Mm.
a huge. Yeah, I want to see United getting. I want to see United back at the top table again. And in order for us to win the big honours, we might have to recruit the PSG manager in the summer. But you know, they want to tie him down to a new contract. That remains to be seen. And Nagelsmann is tied down to Germany until 2028, to the end of the Euros there. So, the options are getting thinner on the ground. Could you see Michael Carrick staying on beyond the season?
Yeah, I could. He's had a fantastic start to his tenure. I think he's really put himself in the frame for the job long term. But I think what's going to be more important is how he finishes the season. The next 8 or 9 games are going to be crucial in terms of him kind of rubber stamping his name for consideration for the top job. He's done well so far, but can he continue that? He's shown that he's tactically good in games, and does he have what it takes? It remains to be seen, but I think there's no reason why he shouldn't be in consideration. And with the likes of Tuchel and Ancelotti more or less ruled out now, then the options just aren't very plentiful. And I think you're looking at the likes of De Zerbi and Nagelsmann, like you said. No, Nagelsmann is an interesting name. He's someone I've admired for a while. Since his time at Leipzig and Bayern Munich. But is he going to come in and do better than Amorim or Ten Hag even? It's hard to know, but he would definitely be of consideration to me. But I think my top choice would be Luis Enrique. If there's any chance, even a sniff of getting Enrique, then you have to go for him, without a doubt. I think he's the best manager in Europe at the moment. He really turned around that PSG team. I know they're having a little bit of a downtime this season, but what he did last season and previously at Barcelona as well was just sensational. So I think you have to try, at least try. I think Andy Mitten said in the past that he might have been interested in the role. So yeah, why not? And if we don't get him, then maybe Carrick. It's hard to know. I think names will probably start coming out, and we'll probably get a bit of white smoke now in April, May time.
Yeah, what we've been hearing from the Athletic and others is that United are going to use the big gap during the international break to sort of start to finalise their candidates, and maybe even carry out a few interviews if they can. Because we play on the 20th of March and we don't play again till the 13th of April. That's 3 weeks
It's a
and
long
three
time.
days.
It's a long time without a game.
So United have got a lot of time there to, draw up their shortlist and narrow it down to maybe 3 candidates, and put the feelers out there to maybe Nagelsmann and Luis Enrique, and see if they're interested in coming, because they will
Yeah.
have to. They're under contract, and they'll have to buy them out of those contracts probably. And
Yeah, because we announced Ten Hag in April time, I think.
yes, but his Ajax contract was coming to an end though, so that's a
Yes, that's right.
different
Yeah.
situation. Um, I don't think
Plus, we
Germany will be
look at
too
the World Cup.
happy. I don't think Germany will be too happy now if Nagelsmann was to agree to go to a big club before the World Cup starts. They'll see
Yeah,
that as a major distraction. I know him and Christopher Vivell have strong links, and that's why he's a candidate. But I don't know if that'll be. United need to be announcing a manager before the World Cup, and I don't know if they'll be able to appoint Nagelsmann, given that Germany will not tolerate that. Do you remember when the Spain manager, announced that he was going to Real Madrid after the World Cup, and they sacked him on the spot?
I do. Yeah, that was really controversial. Was that Lopetegui?
It was, yeah.
Yeah. Um, no, you'd be hoping there'd be more of a Van Hal situation, where I remember when we got Van Hal, he was announced in May, June time. And the Netherlands didn't really have any issue with that, or they didn't seem to have any issue at the time. So if we are going to go for a Nagelsmann or someone like that, then you'd be hoping it goes on similar lines. But we'll see.
Yeah, and Enrique is on a contract till 2027, and there has been talks about a new contract. So if he signs a new deal, then that's off the table. But hopefully not.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully he fancies a new challenge. So
Yeah.
we shall wrap it up there for today. I hope everybody enjoyed the show and enjoyed the reminiscing about 0607, and me and Jerry will be doing more of these types of shows. No, definitely during that 3 week break coming up at the end of the month, and during the close season and during the World Cup as well, we'll do a few other shows like these. So I really enjoy it, and thank you to all the contributions in the comments, and get more of those in, and smash a like on the video and get subscribed to the podcast. And I'll definitely be back on following the Aston Villa game, which is crucial for United on Sunday. So it's been a absolute pleasure, Jerry, having you on again.
Thanks very much, Kyle. Brilliant to be on and reminisce on such a glorious season as 2006-7. Great memories, and it's always a pleasure to chat about the times we've had growing up following United and under Ferguson in particular. So, like you said, hopefully we'll do more of these, and hopefully the viewers might let us know in the comments what season they'd like to see us cover next. Maybe might be a nice idea. So, yeah, thanks very much for having me.
Yeah, let us know, everybody, what season you like us to cover in the next gap in the fixtures coming up. And we could do other specials as well. I know, Jerry, you had suggested talking about United's goalkeeper struggles between '99 and 2005. So we could do something like that as well. And you know, please give us your ideas, everybody, and let us know what you'd like us to talk about. And so we're going to do a lot of these history-related podcasts when there's gaps in the calendar. So thanks for joining us as always, guys, and we'll see you again in the next one.